Hello and welcome to a Party of Cthulhu with myself, Matt, my co-host Jay, and today we're interviewing Antiquarian Games about his game that is the most hidden. What would be the word for it?
Elusive,
Hidden
obscure.
gem.
Elusive,
a
yes.
jewel.
Lore,
Diamond in the rough. Diamond soul
which
in
we
mine.
have absolutely no idea about. So, hello there.
Perfect.
How are you doing?
What's up? Hi, everybody.
We know that has a
Some
really cool
illumination
dragon
out
as
there.
its art.
Yeah, that's literally all we know. An ice dragon and someone getting their ass frozen.
Love that. That's our stockholder for the website for now, because we're still getting our art assets in. I'm surprised they did not send you any images here. I'm going to send you one right now in the game
Ooh.
chat. The game
Again,
chat. Everything I say
exclusives.
is games.
Please, no
Exclusive
news.
post.
No news.
Here we go.
You know.
That's
Save those for after. Oh,
that's
fun.
not.
That I like.
Yeah, that's a temporary placeholder for our cover art. We still have an artist working on that. He's taking his sweet time. No, I love Gabe. Gabe is great. He's a great artist. But yeah, this is some of the artwork that we've posted up there, and I'll throw it to you guys so you can use that for whatever.
Yeah.
Cool, I was about to say, if we're going to stick that as the interview one. I do like the dragon dude in the top left-hand corner drinking the tea.
Yeah, it's our classic priest guy. It's funny, our artist Miranda, we sat around with her for, by we I mean me, because I am a single person. I guess maybe a little context. So Antiquarian Games is two people. It's me and my business founder, associate, partner, Mark Day, who is a super games veteran. He's been in video games since the 90s, worked at EA before they were EA.
Okay.
And does a bunch of video game stuff. So he handles all the business things, which is great for me because I don't know anything about business, and I sit and do creative things and talk about art and make games. So that's generally who we are. And then we have a artist, Miranda Layson, who did all the art on the thing I just sent you with all those cool characters, and she is our primary artist for the game.
Nice.
Very pretty.
Yeah, very, very indeed. I must admit, I'd like to see the finished product on that one. So, with the very first question we ask every single guest as an icebreaker, if you were to order a pint of Cthulhu at the bar, what drink would you be served? What would you be given?
Oh man, a pint of Cthulhu? That's so rough. I'm such a boring drinker. I either drink an old fashioned because I'm from the 1930s, or it has to be a Hefeweizen if it's a beer. I have nothing in between. It's one of those two things.
Fair play.
Lore Lore would definitely be a pina colada, just because I wanted to say pina colada. So I'm just going with that.
Yeah, it's a nice drink.
Okay, seems fitting.
Delicious. Add some strawberries in there. It's actually amazing. Strawberry pina colada is incredible.
I will say the first and only pina colada I ever had was the nitro canned version.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oh, pure vomit
Why
in a
would you do
can.
Oh no. Yeah. No. That's terrible.
I'm cheap,
sorry.
and it was the song "Pina Coladas" and getting caught in the rain. This will be great. It'll be tropical.
It's not a little bit. Oh my god.
Oh,
Well,
bad times.
I'm glad
only.
you survived.
I mean, you drank worse, but you know.
By the way, in case you didn't know, every year we do a holiday, and I think you are probably the last interview before it, where we drink all the drinks from all the interviews.
Oh, that's amazing. That's gonna
Yeah.
suck. But
Oh, this year it's not so bad. Last year
Really?
year had
Okay.
Last year had salmon vodka, had actual seawater as an ingredient, like salt water. There were a lot of drinks that weren't bad as ingredients, but several of them put together. I think absinthe came up a lot.
There is a
Oh,
video.
no.
We just never used it.
No, we're gonna do an audio recording this year and probably post it. Maybe the Patreon. Who knows?
As long
Yeah,
as you're in charge of that one.
I don't know
well,
how
you
to
guys
do
can
it.
finish with a nice old fashioned.
Yeah, nice
it's a good way
old-fashioned.
to go out. Yeah.
Very nice.
It's like a classy way to end your drinking cascade. God.
Yeah, we will be doing that. That old fashioned will, I think, be the last one on the list. I don't think we have anyone else scheduled.
No?
Honored.
Nice. So, next up for the questions then.
Oh yeah, that's right. We are interviewing. That is totally
Yes, we
happening.
are. Yeah, oh, yeah. Funny how that works. So, tell us a bit about yourself. You mentioned a book also.
Ooh.
Oh God, I suck the most at this actually. People are like, tell me about yourself, and I'm like, I game. No, so I am. Oh, let's start from the most recent onward, right? So I just started Antiquarian Games a few months ago. That's why we're brand new. That's why you know nothing about us. I think literally 2.5 months is how long we've been in business right now. So we just started posting on socials like a month ago. So that's very recent. I'm the creative director and the head designer, head writer, main editor, all those things. I already explained kind of what we were before. Before that, I worked freelance in tabletop games a lot. So I did some work with on Mythcraft, freelance for that, for their like new horror setting and some of their other setting stuff as that. I did a lot of third-party D&D stuff. I have a bunch of publications there, like 12 ship titles, I think. And I worked at this place called Camp Dragon, which that is a whole thing. I'm not going to talk about that here because that would be a whole interview of being a head writer, creating content for like D&D and all those kind of things. And during that, I also published a fantasy novel, The Soul of Chaos, which is on Amazon, because what's not? A little self-promo there, which did fine. It's not like it didn't blow anything up. It's doing okay. Didn't get a ton of reviews, but it's an indie book with an indie publisher, so kind of that route. Other than that, I've been playing and making games since I was, 13 years old making them, so 25 years. That's getting that middle age right there. Doing that for a while, hobbyism. I think I've kit bashed every system you can possibly think of with another one, and yeah, that's generally me in a nutshell. Overall nerd.
Hey, aren't we all?
Plenty of those here. Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Default.
I definitely have to ask about Camp Dragon in a minute, but he said it's going to be an
Oh,
entire
no.
interview on itself.
Oh no! No, it's a good time. There's so many good stories about Camp Dragon. It is. I think the website is still up. It shouldn't be, but it totally is.
So, I mean, I would say what experience you have with TTRPGs, but what kind of games have you played yourself? Not so much created, but what got you into it? What was your starting game you ever played?
So I think it was like 8 or 10. It was definitely like sub having a functional brain, which, really is 25. But I think my brother pulled me in to be a sacrificial pawn for like first edition D&D. And I don't remember which like one, because there's like 7,000 of them, right? But it was the one where you just, you're on a board and you're running around. And I had a great time being used to set off all the traps, right? I was just like, just go forward, fighting man. Step on all the traps for us. So that was my first thing. And then we switched over to AD&D. And then they kind of lost, or my brother and his friend lost interest in it. And I just kind of kept playing. So from then on, I think I went into War Games, Axis and Allies, West End Games, Wedge, D6 Star Wars, which I will forever love. Exalted, all of the White Wolf games, like all of the White Wolf games were all great. Yeah, like, God, so many different games. GURPS, A Traveler, like, we can go on forever as far as just talking about that. And then on the video game side too, right? Because you can't, like, I don't think you can get into TTRPGs without starting to get into, like, CRPGs or JRPGs or any of that kind of like workaround at that point. So I'm actually trying to work in video games simultaneously with doing the TTRPG stuff. So have a real big passion there with games and whatnot.
Yeah, fair enough. So, what made you decide to create your own TTRPG?
Rage, actually, I think is the it's like the actual answer. So I mentioned the mysterious Camp Dragon before. It was all 5th edition D&D content, right? And a lot of what we did was run that and create our own. So I was every single day engaging with 5th edition as it was for 4 years. And I think I just kind of like lost my shit after a little. It was like, I can't stand working on this anymore. So I started to just kind of create my own fixes to the game that I thought would make it better or enhance it or more fun for the players. And that's where my self-published stuff came out, because I'd make a class or I'd make a new character creation system or just a whole bunch of other content. And I was like, this is basically a different game at this point. So I originally, when I started making this, I set out to make my version of 5e so I could just run 5e and have it be better, at least for me and my players. And then I said, fuck it, this is a game. So I just ended up creating more out of that. So, I mean, what it really comes down to sit back some of the mystery, lore is what I like to call it a D&D-like, which is kind of a thing these days, right? People are making a lot of these games. But it's, if you needed comps, it would be like D&D 3.5 mixed with Final Fantasy Tactics or Ogre Battle, like video game wise. Very high tactical, very high character customization, like a lot of different options for everything. But also narrative friendly.
So tell us a bit about then. What's the general overview on lore? What's kind of the background, the unique mechanics, and how they differ from other TTRPGs out there?
Yeah, so we God, there's so much to talk about. I did an interview last week, and we like were trying to talk about the same thing, and we couldn't even cover 20% of all the different stuff in there. So a lot of the things you'll recognize from other games. Yeah, I think we just see a comment of tactical advanced. Yes, very much so. The differences, so if you look at it and you set it side by side from like 5e or the D&D editions, you'll be like, oh, this is familiar, and then you'll read a little bit more and be like, oh, this is completely different. One of the things that is probably the most fun from the beta testers that we've really been working on is you never really miss in the game. So if you miss with that attack, with a magic attack, any of that kind of stuff, you graze instead. So you're always failing forward in the game. No matter what you're doing, you are in some way failing forward, unless you critically miss, in which case that's just a good time. So there is a way that you can actually straight fail. But that's one of the biggest concepts of the game, is that failure shouldn't be sitting there and then you get to your turn and then you roll a bunch of dice and it's just all a miss, and then you have to wait. You're like, God damn it. Like, which is always my biggest problem with 5th edition, is that especially if you're playing a martial class, right? It'll get to your turn, you've waited 10 minutes, you roll your dice, you miss, and then your turn's over, and then you go, cool, I'm here, yay. Yeah. Which, it's exciting at first, but by the time you get to your 20th session and that happens again, you just get really exhausted. So we have a lot of mechanics in our game that is, no matter what you're doing, you're always contributing. And we have a lot of ways to alter that. So we kept advantage as a system, but we have stacking levels of advantage, right? So you can infinitely stack advantage and disadvantage, which is really hilarious when a character is rolling with 4 d20s and taking the worst of them. Because you're guaranteed gonna fail, right? They're trying so hard.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's so exciting. I think I had most of them in the beta roll with 7 levels of advantage. So it was just hilarious because we were just seeing how many natural crits they hit, and then those stack, right? So you get bonuses for hitting more like natural 20s. Or you get to do some actual tactical positioning in the game, which is a lot of fun. So like if you have disadvantage, you're like, okay, I'm gonna try this and I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna get my 2 levels of advantage and cancel that out, and then be able to like be advantageous in this situation. So like that's one of the huge things is, and that even leads into more, because I can talk about this forever, so please interrupt me if you want to ask another question.
Go for it. Go for it.
One of the biggest things that I was, when designing this, I was harping on so much was actual pillars, right? So social, environmental, combat, as far as encounters go. Lore has a social combat system that is a direct mirror of its combat system. So like if you want to engage a group of people or a character or something in an actual conversation, there is a system for that. It's not just say some words, roll a dice, fail, move on, or succeed, move on. There's actually a method or a mode that you go into that's like a dialogue encounter. So you have maneuvers, you have special things you can do, you deal levels of fatigue, and then your character basically either capitulates, like draws, or they withdraw because they're just tired of it and they're done arguing. So you can actually do some really dynamic things, and they all interact, right? So you can have a social encounter inside of an environmental encounter inside of a combat encounter. Or you can stop your combat encounter and then begin a social encounter because everyone's trying to surrender, or they're like, maybe you want to convince them to not kill you. Or suddenly a lightning storm erupts in the middle of your combat encounter, and then everyone has to run away from the tornado, and then you become an environmental encounter while you're trying to fight and kill everyone in the combat encounter. It's like everything is dynamic and fits in, and there's these cool like building blocks that you can interface with. That's just kind of neat, really. So that'd probably be the biggest one, is systems to actually entertain those environmental characters and the social characters. So like your ranger isn't just like, I have a bow, yay, I'm a ranger.
Yeah.
There's also
there's
like
a natural break there.
Excellent improvements. So we play a lot of different games, a lot of small ones, but we've come back to D&D just recently. Played only one session so far.
Yeah.
And it is a weird thing to go from systems where it's only like, it's got like 5 different things you can do in a turn, to D&D where it's very much like 1 and then maybe a bonus action.
Right.
And then maybe
Exactly.
when you're like level 20, you get a reaction as well.
Yeah, your actions, your economy, your scaling never really scales, right? It kind of does. Like you can cast a higher level spell, or you can make 2 attacks. Woo. But yeah, like your options kind of like a fighter from level 1 to a fighter from level 20 just swings more often, right? Like there's not going to be a lot of depth to that. That's one of the also things that lore changes is that your action economy, no matter what class you are, scales. So every 5 levels, you get another action. So you can use actions for multiple different things. We don't limit spell casting based on which actions that you're using. So one of my favorite at first level in the beta test, we had a character who was playing a fallen angel, and the system is cool enough that it let her make a actual angel that had fallen from grace at that point. So it wasn't a half creature; it was like legit an angel. that was a character that she was playing. And that's one of the mechanical things that we focus on is every narrative element you can think of has some kind of mechanical background. So she was able to choose her class, choose a heritage, which is what we call braces, basically, that made her into that kind of character. And she was basically an angel of like the void. So one of the first combats, she did an AoE ice, like magic void spell, did a bunch of damage, and then quickly teleported to the 2nd floor to go help her friend who was being set on fire. Like, and that was in 1 turn at level 1. So it's like, this is a really cool character able to do all of these things in a single turn, and she was just having a blast with it too.
It sounds great. It seems like it'll help with several problems D&D and other ones have, including power scaling, because that was always a thing with D&D where spellcasters, part of the reason they don't get multi-attack is because they're just innately a lot stronger than the martial classes.
Fireball.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare to Fireball as a fighter. You're like, I hit him, and then they're like, I cast a Fireball, and you're like, that's cool. You did do that.
You did.
How am I supposed to? And that's one of the things that I tried so hard in this game is that because you mentioned scaling compatibly, right? It's like one is over the other. So like your fighter, and we do have because lore is a setting agnostic, so we try to go for more archetypes rather than flavored character classes. But our fighter is the best at fighting. Like your wizard will never be better at fighting than your fighter. Your fighter is always going to be way better. They get access to maneuvers, which are constant use, basically special abilities. They get access to talents, which are resource draining powers, which let them compare to magic casters. So everybody has a casting resource. It's just flavored differently depending on your class. So you can do really cool epic stuff as a fighter that lets you compare to a mage and actually keep up with their like crazy spell casting.
Nice. So other than D&D and the various other TTRPGs, what inspired you? What books or films or games that you've played inspired you in making your game?
Wow, that is nice that you asked that because I happen to have a list of this.
Ooh.
I literally
Ooh, yay.
yeah, I was creating sample materials for the game itself, which, you know what, I'm surprised I didn't give you guys that. Again, I really slacked on this, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But I'm gonna toss it in the chat again, which is this is basically a InDesign mock-up of the semi-final book over here.
Oh.
So it's got like some art and like all those kind of things. It's about 24 pages of kind of what the book is going to look like. And it's loading because it's 15 megabytes because I didn't clean it up at all. But yeah, inspiration-wise, it's funny. On the first page, you see a list of inspirations, so I can literally just read this off. Books-wise, and being a giant nerd, Gardens of the Moon, which is the Malazan Chronicles first book, for anyone who remembers those. Awesome fantasy series if you've never read it. Ursi, of course, the Gwyn is incredible. Romance of the Three Kingdoms, like the Chinese epic. I love that. Oh, I love it so much. It's so good and so ridiculous and so much fun. And then The Fifth Season by M.K. Jemisin. Oh my god, Jemisin. I think I mispronounced her first initials. That's fine. I said Jemisin right. Also incredible book, incredible series, incredible author. Yeah, NK, I did it right. Go me. Anyway, she's really great. So books-wise, those are also recommendations. Games, I mean, we're looking at, I've already said it enough, like D&D and whatnot, but a lot of video game influences. If you ever played Pillars of Eternity, Tyranny, Ogre Battle, March of Black Queen, Boulder Myth, are all incredible game series. And then movie influences, and this is the real vibe here, right? The Green Knight, Pan's Labyrinth, Willow, Red Cliff, Dark Crystal, Seven Samurai. That's what I would say is like the combination of everything.
Yeah, nice.
Oh. Just having a scan through it now. This is it generally looks really nice, pretty well laid
thanks.
out.
I worked my ass off on this. I learned to use InDesign in the same week that I made these. So
that's horrifying. Relatable, but horrifying.
I was like, yeah, how does this work? You know, it was a good time. Pretty good result, all things considered.
Oh, for sure, but like, my guy, it's not the easiest thing to do to yourself. That's for sure.
So, speaking of art and layout and things, how did you finally settle on the art style you chose?
So I actually worked with Miranda in, we mentioned it again, Camp Dragon. We're going to have to talk about it at some point. She was one of the artists that we had working with us, and she's great. I love her to death. She's super creative. Not just a great artist, but really smart when it comes to branding and things like that and graphic design. So I lucked out when it came to her, really. She was able to help a lot with that kind of stuff. But we just kind of sat down, and one of the things that I liked, the old school sort of art, that like old school fantasy art, I'm a huge fan of, book covers and it's like 3.5 and either 1E Pathfinder. So I wanted to get that, but I also wanted it to have kind of this unique style to it where it looked like its own sort of game. So we kind of used that art style. We mixed it with kind of the old silhouette style of like the Final Fantasy games. Like every time you see the cover, you have these cool like silhouettes of these characters. And then Miranda's just her natural kind of like coloring skills. So that's kind of where that all came in and where that came from. Just a combination of influences and having a really cool and great artist.
Yeah. So with your game being, as you said, setting agnostic, is there a world in mind for it? And you've just made it really flexible, or?
So definitely the setting itself being agnostic is because, most people who play these games use their own worlds. So I didn't want to come into it with the design of like, you're going to use our world, because you're not. Like you can, but in general, you're going to do your own thing. That's my experience and what I usually do also. But we do have an official setting called the Shattered Lands, which when we do our crowdfunding is going to be part of that. We're going to have our first campaign module set there. So we'll release that concurrently with the player's guide, or the player's companion, as we call it. But yeah, so it will run concurrently to that. So it'll have like it's kind of acts as a, hey, this is how the systems in this game work with settings. Because what we try to do is that we have multiple magic origins. So there's about 6 of them. And you can plug in or remove those as you want. The game doesn't care. It says, hey, if you don't want to use these, if they don't make sense for your setting, then just get rid of them and get rid of the associated class or classes that use them, or plug in something else with it. So like the Shattered Lands is going to be a, hey, this is how this works. This is how this should work, or what you can use, like ideas for your narrative and like how your settings work in there too. So in a very long explanation, absolutely, yes, it's the answer to your question.
Hey, it works though. Just quickly, you were saying you're going to go to funding. What roughly do you reckon your funding goal will be?
We're gonna shoot for, I think 50,000 was our big one. We actually have a marketing budget too that we haven't dipped into yet. We're waiting a little bit before we start doing that. But yeah, that would be that's kind of our initial goal, right? And if we go over that would be incredible. If we go under that, then so well, we do what we do. I actually made the entire game without any funding over the last like year and a half, 2 years. So like, my funding is nice. It's mostly for art, though. Please give us money for art. And that's really what it comes down to. But there's other things on top of that, and we'd love to have a community based around that, which is really our mostly our goal for crowdfunding, is to get that kind of energy and the hype, and to let people be a part of the process. Fortunately, we already have a full beta version of the game done. So one of our draws to it is that the second you access the crowdfunding, like you pledge to it, we give you the beta. We're like, here you go, play the game, enjoy, have fun, mess around.
Interesting. We shall talk more later about that one.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through character creation, the progress in your game, and Lowe's question of how many archetypes for PCs?
Oh God. So there are 14. And this is another unique thing about the game. Oh yeah, talking point. Our classes, we call it class branches, not subclasses or whatever. Basically, because you have 14 base classes in the game, and that's your traditional archetypes: fighter, acolyte, wizard, witch, all that kind of thing down the line. And then each base class, you're only in it for about 2 levels, and then you pick an advanced class from there. And every base class has 3 advanced classes tied to it. So you immediately branch out to 40-ish available classes from there, and then once you hit level 12, your advanced classes branch into what's called a master class, which takes you into high-level character progression. If you get there, one of the reasons we did that is that most campaigns only hit level 12, level 13. They don't go into high levels, right? So you actually get to finish your full class progression and then decide what you want to do from there in. So you can go and you can take another advanced class. You can actually dip into, we have prestige classes. We have got classes for days. Or you can take your master class and get really cool and like advance that like really high level. It's very similar to like a job system. So that's why I was saying kind of like Ogre Battle or Final Fantasy Tactics, where you promote up to like a better class. That's kind of like where you land in this game a lot of the time. So all in all, there's about 70 classes that you can gain access to throughout the game. They all have qualifications though, so you need to unlock them. You don't just get them all at the start, right? You need to have like, so you're not going to sit there and be like, oh shit, what class do I take? You have a very definitive line of which ones you can go through. So getting to the actual question, character creation is really funny. Doesn't actually consider your class. What you end up doing is that you sit there, and the first thing the game wants you to do is create a concept, right? It wants you to actually create an idea of your character before you choose any option, because there's so many. This game has too many options. there's a lot. So what you want you to do is like, hey, create your concept, generate your character, and then start creating options. So you create your concept wherever you want. I think in the book, we decide we want a baking kobold bread wizard. So that's our character concept, right? And then you move into, all right, so now choose your stats, which has a whole system tied to it. Once you pick your stats, then you start working on your heritage, which is your physiology, which is your physical appearance. Once you've picked that, you can then stat that out with features. So every physiology, say if you pick a kobold, has access to unique features that you can choose to be a certain kind of kobold. So you could be a winged kobold, you could be a fire-breathing kobold, you could just be a standard kobold that like makes traps from old editions. Then you choose your culture, which is an optional feature, so you can choose not to do that if you don't want to. Your culture is something like, oh, I was brought up in a yokel town full of wizards, and then you get features or potentials from that as well. Then you move on to thinking words and stuff. Yeah, then you move on to backgrounds. So backgrounds are this really cool thing. So before this point, you've been creating a tribe or a specific like physical archetype, right? What your character is from what they've inherited. Backgrounds is what your character actually is. So it's who they are. And there's a ton of background traits. You could be a veteran who was deserted, or you deserted from the military. You could be graduated from like a college or something of magic. You can be graduated from like a traditional college. You can be a noble. You can own a home. You can have a ship. There's so many different things. My favorite background is the one that actually puts you in a contract with the devil at the beginning of the game. So you get a free wish. And then once you've used it, the devil starts haunting you for the entirety of the game because it now owns your soul. So it's trying to kill you. So it's like a fun kind of, and that's just an option you can pick in your backgrounds for your character. So once you've done that, we then have a motivation system, which is kind of like alignment, but it's drilled down a lot more. So instead of saying you're lawful or you're evil or you're good, because what does that really mean, right? We can sit here and talk about, philosophers have been trying to figure that out for thousands of years and they still have no idea. So what we do is we have you pick, if you want to be good, you pick your motivation like bravery or charity or something like that. And then you say, oh, I am a brave, charitable person. And then I am a good character, things like that. And then that actually weaves into some other system stuff like experience. You get experience for doing things rather than just killing things, which is a whole another conversation. But yeah, so once you've done all of those options, you then pick your first class at first level. And then that, depending on what you've picked up to that point, kind of influences what your class is, right? So if you get to the classes and realize you don't have the prerequisites to be a wizard, then you're like, oh, actually, I didn't realize I made a druid. So you end up making a druid instead. So it kind of like naturally puts you in your class.
Yes, so you've got your archetype, your culture, your background, your race, and your motivation, all for early character building.
Yep, all of that. It's a pretty long process for what people are compared to. Even if you're like, for me, like I'll sit down and create a character, it still takes me a good half an hour to an hour to get through it. But it's a process. It's kind of like a whole building expert. It's a really great session zero.
That's what I say. It sounds like you could make a very good session zero.
You can make some crazy stuff too. One of my favorite builds so far is the magical girl build, where someone made a Sailor Moon character, and it works 100%. They switch into a costume as a quick action, which is like a second. They generate their own weapon. They generate their own armor. They have a fan club that follows them around. So it's great. It's a lot of fun.
God.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I just see us playing a bunch of degenerates?
Yeah, absolutely. The degenerate builds are so fun. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I can't tell if I'd want to like use this to create an epic character or just be a gremlin.
Both.
Be a gremlin.
Absolutely. Of course. You make some great gremlins. One of our characters, our legend characters, what we call them. They're kind of like canon setting characters. She's actually in the image I sent on the top right. There's this little gremlin-looking character. She's green with the wings. That is in our system is a sky gnome. So that is actually what gnomes look like in lore. Because to me, gnomes are typically just like halflings that are smart. Which is like why, but they're just halflings. So we made these. Our gnomes are more fey creatures. This one specifically, she's got wings, which makes her a sky gnome. She is our kin and legend gremlin character, and she is the sweetest little sociopath on the planet. And made completely in the system, she's basically got mental deficiencies, and she is a murderous nightmare. It's great, little assassin. Probably the most dangerous character build you can have in the game.
How did I pick up on that immediately?
Matt messaged me as soon as you put that art, like,
Why am I getting degenerate vibes?
Yeah, absolutely. Nailed it.
You know what I'm going to make
We're all
if I
degenerates
can in
at
the
the end of
system? Magic Dolly Parton.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I would love to see Magic Dolly Parton. You can definitely rock a bar as Dolly Parton with that. 100%.
Oh dear.
Like we have a Mr. Magoo magic death zombie. That guy was hilarious. Basically, the more you hit him, the more he gets back up after he dies. It's a long way to explain it, but it works.
I know. So, what kind of player experience are you aiming for? High fantasy, comedy, or is it just anything and everything?
So the goal, what I like personally as a designer, I'm a big fan of high fantasy, like Lord of the Rings, but with some humor. You know, like we love really big legendary stuff. That's why we call it legends. You know, and we really focus on like the mythology of things. So, like when you make a character, you're probably going to be way too strong, and the game wants you to be way too strong. And that's fine. It deals with it. It says that's cool. Whatever, man. You can take on this horde of goblins and be fine. But when that murder goblin or the actual like leader of the goblins comes out, that's when you're going to have trouble, right? Is that we kind of want you to not sweat the small stuff. And then once you get into the big things, it's going to like hit you. So basically it's like playing the Odyssey as a TTRPG. Everything's big, everything's epic, everything's huge. And then you're still going to get your ass kicked when it comes down to it. But also definitely making room for humor. That's why I love the side builds that are ridiculous, like the Magic Girl and the Death Zombie and all those kind of things. I think every good epic game could use a little bit more humor.
Definitely. Humor makes, I think, the best table stories out of all of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember one of my favorite characters of all time was this dwarf who abandoned his axes in favor of grappling with spiked armor because it was an option in one of the books. And I was like, how can I not play my dwarf with spiked armor? And then all he did was latched onto things from then on. And we were fighting a dragon. And we couldn't get it because our DM was a dick. So it just flew around on top of us. We had no way to get onto it. So we loaded my dwarf into a catapult. And we launched him into the air at the dragon, which is ridiculous, right? But I made all the rolls. So I attached to it. And then I rolled around on its wing with my spiked armor until it fell out of the sky. And that's probably one of the most epic moments. Like, no matter how ridiculous that is, that's hilarious, right? So
He's just a hugger. He's just a hugger.
Hug, man. He's just a nice guy.
God, imagine a character with that premise, but they're like fucking creepy uncle style. Come on, just wanna hug.
Come and give me a hug, darling.
Oh, Oh, it's a very different
No.
vibe. And also with the accent makes it so much worse. Like,
Oh. Oh no.
So what do you say so far has been the best part of making lore?
Losing all my hair. No, that's being able to just creatively generate a system without restraints. I think is the best part, because you can alter a system, you can change it however you want, but nothing really beats the freedom of just being able to make, like, let your creativity just completely flow out, right? Like, I love classes. I love job systems. It's one of my favorite parts of RPGs in general. And you can see that because there's lots of them. There were more, and then I ended up cutting them because I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, the book is already too big. So, it's like one of those cool things where I can sit there and I can look over it and I can be like, yeah, all of these are options. And it fits into my belief that narrative and mechanic should always support each other, right? Like, the ludonarrative harmony, which is more of a video gaming term, but it's something that should always be thought of in any game that you're creating. Anything that you do mechanically should have some kind of narrative relevance, and vice versa, right? You should be able to mimic those things. That's why I got so sick of 5th edition originally. So being able to, like, do that was huge for me. It really opened me up to, like, embracing more stuff out there. I'd love to make a game a little bit less D&D like to really lean into that, but it is what it is.
Fair play.
In contrast to that, what was one of the more challenging things you faced during the development of it?
Oh God. Making it so lore is the base function of its design is familiar but new, right? So how do you strike a line of not too familiar and not too new? And especially in a crunchy game, one thing you always struggle with as a designer is how crunchy can I make this and still make it accessible, right? Because for me, I'm a designer. I do math. I do games. It's easy for me to comprehend, but I have to think about someone who is approaching this without those skills, with anything they've, like, really sat down and done. So, like, that's probably the hardest part, is striking a balance between all of those things and still having a system that's fun. I think we get caught in overbalancing games a lot of the time, where they're so heavily balanced that you can't really do anything in them. And you're like, what's the point? I don't like, and even then it's still not balanced, right? So, like, 5th edition is the perfect example. I hate to harp on 5e so much, but it's big, it's popular, it's easy. Is that it's so tightly balanced that it's not balanced at all, because one slight hiccup in the system's balance and it freaks out. Give your players one magic item that's too strong, the game is done. Wizard takes a certain amount of spells, it's done, right? You're like, crap, like, we can't do anything now. So it, like, yeah, it's tough. It's a rough line to run, and I think that was the hardest part. I think I struck a pretty good balance of it all. It's still a bit too complicated in parts, but what are you gonna do? It was a choice at that point to choose the crunch.
Fair play. You said about the having to cut things out. How much have you had to cut out so far, and what kind of things do you plan on doing with it? Like class expansions and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, when I was originally creating prestige classes, so, I said the advanced class and master class, we do have prestige classes. So what those tend to do is they create a niche or they hybrid. So when I originally started up the system, I had a prestige class for every single class combination. So fighter, acolyte, witch, wizard, witch, fighter, witch, so on and so forth. So I had a list that was a combination of every single class. And I was like, there's no way, there is not enough time in the world for me to make all of these classes and then make them each unique. So that a lot of those got cut, like a ton of those got cut. And that would be something that comes out in a class book, right? So you'd have like an ultimate combat companion, which focuses on martial archetypes, or a mage's friend or spell friend companion book, which is all the casting archetypes, which is something we could really easily do and just fill it with class stuff and specific equipment, all that. I ended up cutting a lot of environmental stuff from the player's companion, which I would have loved to put in there, but again, the book was just too big, so I threw it in we have our lore master's companion, which is our GM's guide. So you find a lot of that in there. Property, actually, so in the original player's guide, there was a whole in-depth building section of, like, how to create property and what to do with that, which also got moved into the GM's guide because, again, just so much. There's a simplified version of it in the player's book at this point. But yeah, mass combat. I have a system ready to go for that, which I would love, which is probably better as its own stuff. So much stuff. Yeah, I mean, the book itself is so massive too that all of these things I'm talking about have more simplified systems. So there's a downtime and follower system in the player's guide where you can attract followers, turn them into a military or like a defense force, or you can turn them into workers or crafters or all those kind of things. So you can like go hand in hand with that.
Or a cult?
I was going to say you
Yeah,
can get one of these cults.
Sorry, cults are actually part of a lot of the classes.
Oh.
So if you play a warlock in this game, you naturally acquire a cult by by the higher levels of it. So absolutely, cults are in.
Matt has this one D&D character he played, and our DM didn't let him have a cult.
Oh,
Okay, the
Rude.
story behind that is the recording. It was the first time we did it. I think he forgot what he was saying or something, and I ended up with a cult of goblins. One of the players didn't have their audio record, and we didn't have the backup at the time, so we lost that entire episode, and then I never got my cult.
Yeah, because
That's
when we went and
depressing.
played through it was our Mines of Fandelver. We were playing through,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
the
Yeah.
goblins and the bugbear.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The
Everybody
second time we played
recruits those
through it.
goblins. I don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
The second time we played through it, Took in the DM at the time, used his knowledge of our decisions from last time to like future sight into what we'd do and fuck us over.
Mm,
Oh, that's so rude.
And then it happened again because that was the one we recorded 3 times because someone else had audio. It's the
that was
second
Carmen.
time.
It was Carmen 3 times.
Oh no.
Man, if someone wants a cult, you give them their cult. I'm sorry, but that's just the game. It's the game.
And then
we're
you give
playing.
them cult-based consequences.
Exactly. Then you can mess with their cult. Also, one of the best ways to challenge a player is to make them care about something in the game and then threaten that, not so much them, right? So like if you have a cult and you care about it and you start threatening the cult, suddenly the player has something to lose. And that's way more interesting of a story than just trying to kill them all the time, right? Because there's a lot more at risk at that point.
I don't think Donovan would have given a crap if someone threatened his cult because he was a sociopath.
I think if
Well,
someone
then
had
there's
been
that too.
converting your cult members, you would have been pissed off and tried to stop them. I think
There
if
you go.
someone had been Jehovah's Witnessing you, it would be following.
Wow.
It's just straight up stealing your members. Well, that's a fun thing. The warlock, its advanced classes are split into do you have a sugar daddy or are you the sugar daddy, right? So you can choose to be the sugar daddy, and if you choose that advanced class, you get a cult as your final feature. That's your capstone. Is a feature called Ascendancy, which says people just come to you and they worship you, and then you basically harvest them for power. So it's like a part of your whole character's thing. You can't just kill them if you want because you're a crazy, mythical monster thing. But generally, it's an excuse to have a bunch of followers that you can throw around.
To be the Dom or to be the Twink?
Exactly.
That is the
Yeah.
question.
You get to choose. Yeah. That's why we like crunchy systems. We want to make sure everyone's satisfied.
Fun. Right, so how about playtesting then? Have you done it? Have you have plans for it?
Oh yeah, I've been running a beta test group for 3, 4, 5, beginning of the year, maybe end of last year.
Yeah.
Anyway, 6 months because time is linear and proceeds forward. And apparently we're all caught in the basket sometime. Time is weird after 2020, right? Like what even is time? But yeah, so I've been running a regular playtest, which is me basically going through the initial module that we're going to be releasing, which is a level 1 to 12 campaign, which takes you all the way through your character's first progression and then has a natural spin-off for like higher level play on top of that. So they're beta testing that, which is a lot of fun. I'm also building it with them as we're making it. I actually have an actual play series that we're going to be filming this month and then putting out with a bunch of VTubers. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be short. I think it's like 4 or 5 sessions, but they're a bunch of psychos, so that should be a good time. For
have you
playing
met
around with
us?
those characters? Yeah, hey,
Feeling psycho.
yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Very targeted beta testing. Which, funny enough, that character, the angel I mentioned, my wife is actually playing that character, and it's so much fun. She's always wanted to. Every time we play D&D, she's like, "Can I be a monster?" And my response was, "Not really. Like, there's no way to make that work." And she's like, "Well, fuck you." It's like, "Cool, all right." So it's one of the generations in lore is that you can be the monster, right? You can actually play that out. In fact, even in one of your backgrounds, you can just choose vampire. You can start the game as vampire. So as beta testing, that's what we have right now. In a tent, again, I have the whole beta document. So anyone who's really asked for it at this point, I've just been like, here you go, enjoy the typos. But it generally has like the full system layout and everything in there, so you can just get into the game and play it.
Nice.
So, out of all the playtesting you have done, what's kind of like the funniest things that have happened so far?
Oh my god, so many. I think a lot of the funny moments. It's when you're playing the game and just things constantly happen, and a lot of the times they're hilarious in context. I think we just had a situation. I guess this isn't really funny. It's kind of sad, but it's also kind of hilarious. There was this a huge boss fight. It's like one of the checkpoints in the game, and it's to access this like underground layer, which I'm not gonna say because spoilers. And it's got this big wraith boss, right? And the whole thing is this boss floats over a giant hole, and under him is a black chasm that's like 600 feet deep, and you have no idea what's down there because you can't get past him, right? So you don't know what's going on. And the party was not prepared for an enemy that just floats over a hole. It doesn't come to them. It has ranged attacks. So it just does its thing, and it will kill you if you don't get to it. You have to find a way to lure it either off of the giant chasm, or you have to figure out what to do from there. Some context: all creatures in lore have weaknesses, and they're things you can identify and exploit. And a lot of boss enemies can't be really hurt until you learn to exploit their weaknesses. So if you just attack them without any kind of strategy or like preparation, they will destroy you. So you actually have to like lean in and figure out like how to beat them and like what their weaknesses are. So it doesn't matter how strong you are as a character, you'll encounter a boss that's like, I don't take damage until you do this one thing. So it will slowly destroy you until, I've said like 13 times now, until you like figure that out. So this was that kind of boss where they could not figure out how to do any damage to it, and their fighter, the tank, had no ranged capability. So he was hiding behind a rock. And it was like, cool. Great, dude. So the party's namer, which is unique to lore as far as a class goes, it uses this magic organ called naming, and it's all about manipulating the quintessential essence of reality. Cool class, but also not a tank. It has the lowest stability of any class in the game. It is very easy to kill because they are a talking class. They talk to things, is like their whole thing. Anyway, so he said, well, shit, we're all about to die. So he has wings. He flew to the center of the boss, and he actually figured out its weakness because he was smart enough to do that. Used essentially this ability to taunt the boss so that it would actually like melee attack him and go into a rage and like start doing things. And he flew over to it, and he basically like nana boo boo, right? Like I'm like pissed it off. It worked on that, and then the next turn it turned around, and he went, oh no. Because it was enraged, it was taunted by him, so it used all of its abilities on a single thing, and he's like, I have a defense value of 10. So he wasn't able to do anything against it. I think its minimum to hit was like an 8, like it couldn't roll less than 18, so like it just absolutely obliterated him. He went from full health to completely unconscious, fell down the hole into a pit of lava, and Terminated out with the thumbs up and everything. Died instantly because he was unconscious in lava. There was nothing they could do to save him, and he was all the way down this hole. But because of his heroic actions, they could then fight the boss and kill him. So I guess the funny moment later was when they went down the hole and realized that he had fallen into the pit of lava and found just the slightest bit of his wing on the side of the lava pool to recognize that that's what happened to him. It's funny too because they rested before they went after him, which is so awful. Like it was like, you guys are terrible people. Like your buddy just fell down this hole, and you went, we should get some rest before we go chase after him.
All right.
But yeah, that's a beta test. That's an average session.
Sorry about that. I had to mute for a minute.
So
People survive.
Yeah. Oh, how rude. What part of lore, now that it's, well, the beta is done at least, are you most proud of?
Actually, this is probably the most systems nerd thing I could say, but the crafting systems. I love me some systems and system design. So when I made the game, when I got to equipment, I stopped just generating content, and I created all of the crafting systems and then used those crafting systems to make all of the equipment. So every piece of equipment, that you see in the book has a crafting equivalent to it. In fact, if you look at you'll see a target number next to it, and that's its crafting target that you need to hit to make it yourself. So if you say, I want to make this specific sword, you say, okay, well, here's your target. You just need to hit that number, and you're able to use the system to recreate it. But that was a great way to not only test the crafting systems, because I made so many items off of it, but also to make sure that everything you find equipment-wise is actually equivalent to what you can generate as a player, right? So there's not going to be anything that's inaccessible to you in the book, so you can make all of that kind of stuff. So if you are a crafter, you're not going to be bested by some off-screen NPC who made this legendary sword, right? You can make that sword, and this is how they did it, so this is how you can do it too. So that's probably one of the things I'm most proud about, and that actually goes into magic items as well. So you can craft, everything from scratch. You can actually, there's a system for harvesting material, so you can go out and you can mine some ore or whatever. You can then turn that ore into ingots via a material crafting system, or you can make a unique material. You can then take that material and you can make your weapon out of it, and you can take that weapon and then you can enchant it with magic. So you can go through every single tier of creation with the crafting systems and go from scratch, or you can just make a sword, depending on how much in depth you want to go to.
I mean, that itself leads to multiple people being good at different sort of systems of that entire thing. You say you get the mining, the ingots, and then the crafting.
You could have a whole party that's just based around the whole crafting process, right? You could have a miner, you could have your blacksmith, you could have your enchanter, you could have your hunter for like rare materials. So you could literally have a treasure hunting party that just like makes their own gear and then sells it. And then if you use the property system, you can actually create a shop around that. So you could play a cozy crafting version of this game just by using the essential systems that come with it.
That's actually another answer for something that's a problem with D&D, because D&D does have spell components, and they are the most ignored mechanic in the entire game.
Because they're so annoying. They're a joke. They're just a joke. That's their whole thing. Yeah.
A twig that's been struck by lightning. It's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, and it's also because there isn't any connection with it. You buy health potions and rope. You don't buy... I think rations and the weight system are also a symptom of this. You don't use them if you play D&D.
No, why would you?
You just don't ever bother about that, especially the weight of like coin and stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's some like nerdy listeners who are like, I use that. I do it every time. Right. What do you mean you don't love the math? But they get ignored because in D&D, you're not actually going to be walking down a street thinking about buying a shirt or boots.
What?
Unless it's a magic shirt of whatever the fuck.
Right. It's a cognitive overload, right? And it's just like, oh my god, I have to track actual poundage? No fucking thank you. It's like playing a Bethesda game where they weigh the amount of lockpicks you have on you. You're like, why? Why? Like, why are you doing this to me? You know, it's like that kind of thing. So it's a what it does is it adds complexity without depth to the game design. So you're creating cognitive load for your players that doesn't add anything to the game, so they don't engage with it. I mean, I don't use it. I love math. I love systems. I am a systems nerd. A good curve gets me excited. But I don't use weight in D&D because it's useless. It's just a waste of everybody's time. So like, that's what when you play this game, when you go into lore, you actually we do track weight, but it's a stat, right? It's you can carry like 6 weight. And an item may have weight or not. Yeah. That's it. And then you can carry up to this many things of weight. And we do. So, like, there's garments. I was just doing a session 0 last night for the actual play. And they got to the garment section in armor. And someone was like, this is amazing. Because you can wear a shirt and it has something associated with it, right? Like, your character's robes have bonuses to them. Or things that affect your character. There's actually... because I'm 13, I put a pair of elegant underwear as a garment, and it gives you a confidence bonus, right, to your skill. Because, you know you're wearing it, it makes you confident. But, it's the kind of thing where everything serves a mechanical purpose to the game, and if it doesn't serve a mechanical purpose, then we don't care. We don't track it. Move on, Like, if your character has a bunch of cigarettes on him, cool. You don't have to list that on your equipment because that's ridiculous.
I think there's another thing, and funnily enough, the answer to the problem is literally lore, not just your game, but the act of it.
Yeah.
In D&D, there's not this structure and scaffolding for things like crafting, or even for the component spells. Okay, I need a iron ingot was for one of the spells I had as a Firbolg druid. Unless the blacksmith has a dragon involved with it, there's not going to be a named blacksmith in the town. I need an iron horseshoe. There's not a cobbler. There's not a farrier. That's what you call the horseshoe people.
Right.
D&D modules don't have actual villages. They have, like, if you've ever been to like a fake western town where it's all scaffolding and then one building you can actually go into. That's kind of the way the worlds are meant to be in Dungeons and Dragons. And so if your DM is actually wanting you to do spell components, and if the player is too, they have to basically write entire towns, cities, and villages from the ground up to facilitate that.
Yes. Oh my god, so exhausting.
And
yeah, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Math, or the way maybe, because you said about the curves and the sort of thing. The first thing that knows this, when I was writing our current season, the first thing I got excited about was the Excel spreadsheet. So I was making
yes
to keep track.
Spreadsheets. Yeah, we are the same person.
Every other day.
I get so excited every time I open up a fresh. Yeah, you open up a fresh spreadsheet and you're like, oh, what are we gonna do? We got this.
Opposite feeling. My Microsoft Office subscription ran out halfway through the season.
Oh, you were freaking out. Yeah.
I was like, oh god, no.
That's terrifying. I'm so sorry.
Got back.
But to lead into that point though, that's a lot of what D&D has become is extra work for your dungeon master, right? There's so much work you need to do to plan a campaign to have access to those kind of things. And you're like, the scaffolding isn't there, right? Because they're like, it's got this spell component. And you're like, okay, well, I need this horseshoe. And you're like, but I can't get one, so can I not? And that's why we ignore it, because no one wants your druid to not be able to cast their spell. And it's a problem. It's a failure of game design that your players and the people running the game have to work to make the game work, which is a problem. The engine should be able to facilitate everything on its own, and it should provide you the tools that you can just plug in where you need them. Right? It's like a good cozy game designer. Even you're like, I need a blacksmith. Okay, I build a blacksmith. Right? I'm replaying Starfield right now because I hate myself. I wanted to see what that game looked like with mods, and one of the things I noticed is when I went to the outpost building, you have to do everything from scratch, and it's exhausting. You know, you have to build the hab, and you have to go into it, and then you have to decorate it. I'm like, I don't want to decorate. Give me a pre-designed decoration, right? I'm fine with it. I'm never going inside of this thing. I use it for mining, right? So like, why do I have to play like Housemaker in this game about shooting shooting people in space, which is essentially what the game is about. So like, it's that level of, why are you making me do this extra work that is not part of the game? And that's a huge failing of game design. It's an inability to perceive what they're playing the game for, and a quality of life build, right? Like if I add in a tool that lets you do what you want to do and you don't have to sit down and design it yourself, that's fun. Right? I can just pick and choose. And then as a player, I can decide what I want to engage with, which is a big deal. That's why we have a property system, and that's why it's optional. You don't have to use it in your game. But if you want to build a house, or you want to build a shop, or a castle, or any of these things that players really want to do, you can choose to engage with that property system. And there's even additions to that. Maybe you can fill it with followers if you want to have your cult inside your castle and become the villain. You know, everything compounds on top of itself, and the game is dynamic enough that, again, if you don't want to do that, if you just want to be treasure hunters or murder hobos, you can play that game too. So it's kind of our theory of design, right? Is give the people what they want, but design it for them. Don't make them have to do that work.
Nice. And that leads perfectly on to our kind of last set of questions.
Oh, nice. What
kind of final advice would you give to anyone looking to create their own TTRPG?
People are gonna hate me for this, but first off, stop using AI for your design work. Don't do it. Don't do it. Stop using it right now. like just write words, guys. Sit down and write words. With that, that's like the first bit. The second part of advice is with any creative work, and the game design is very much art first, craft and salesmanship second. If you don't have a process, you're gonna fail, and that is the thing that a lot of people fail with. You need to develop a creative process before you make anything. Let's write a book, write a script, a short story, make a game, design anything. And in order to create that process, you first got to learn the basics. I'm so sorry, but read a book. Read about design. You look at how other games are designed. Play enough games that you understand what it looks like. Learn what structure is. Learn what system design is. Learn why curves matter, right? When you're mathing the game out. You don't need to be good at it. You just need to know what it is there for and why it works. And that's it. That's all you need to do is once you figured out how and you create your process, you can make anything. And then you won't get lost in writer's block. You won't get these things because you'll have a process that you'll be able to follow. And you'll be able to actually finish your projects, which is advice part 3. Finish the thing. Stop working on the project. Finish your goddamn game.
Hey, Matt. Feeling any kind of way right now?
Ooh,
No, I know.
Did you get called out? Did I call you out?
Not just me.
Me also.
No.
But
that used to be me, right? Until I figured out that I'm like, oh, I should figure out what I'm actually doing and start finishing projects, and that's how you build them, right? Is that you create that process and take it to fruition.
yeah, Matt, don't start.
I feel like I should be selling a book now.
The 6 ones already out there. I can make fun of him because I'm working on 3 of those with him, and I'm also not finishing.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's the best thing about getting with a bunch of designers, right? Is someone who's actually like worked or is working on stuff because they go, God damn it, you son of a bitch! I know. Stop harassing me, right? Like, it's
Every
such a
time.
there.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a dream to have something come out eventually, but it's just the idea of finishing something. It never seems to ever happen. But hey,
You'll get there. It'll happen. Nothing is ever truly finished, right? It's just you've stopped working on it and it's complete enough to release it. That's the trick that a lot of people forget. That if you try to perfect it, it's never coming out. You're in early access for 20 years, right? Just get to the completion point and then make it publishable, and then you can release expansions.
Well, you want to ask where people can find him then?
Yep, sure. Where can people find you, and where can people find your game?
Oh wow, that I'm never prepared for that part. So we are all over social media. We are on Twitter. Sorry, X. No, it's Twitter. BlueSky, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, all those kind of things. It is ANTQ Games. We are the same everywhere. Antiquarian Games. If you look that up, you will find us. We do have a website, which is Antiquarian Games. I think it's antiquarian-games.com. Which leads to all of our things and has updates, which there aren't very many on there. The game is not out yet, but if you ever want access to anything, our Discord is kind of the hub of activity, which again, Antiquarian Games, same thing everywhere. If you go to our website, if you go to our socials, you can usually find a link to the Discord. That Discord I will just post updates from the game. I'll post, like right now, the beta is posted in some of the lore channels that we have up. So you can just go download it and look at it. Like, you can mess with it as much as you want. So you can always get free updates and access to everything in that Discord. And then we try to do regular updates on social medias.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Any links will be in the description below of wherever you listen to your podcasts of choice. And yeah, I think we'll call it there and say again, thank you very much. And yes, goodbye, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Adios.